We are. Hi, everybody. My name is Ruth Sternberg. I'm a career navigation coach, helping you to explain your value to employers so that you can get hired. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio today, and I am on screen with Cory Joyrich, who is in Michigan and recently went through a job search, now is working. And we thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit about some of the things that helped him the most during his search for employment. Cory, hi, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, it's a real pleasure, Ruth. Thanks for inviting me on.
So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what your situation was and what you're doing now.
Well, I'll start by what I'm doing now and then kind of go backwards a little bit. Right now, I'm one of the directive forces of the Major Gifts team at Gleaners Community Food Bank here in Detroit, Michigan. And as you might imagine, we're very busy nowadays. And what's interesting for me, having just joined this group, is that it not only ticks off all the boxes that are important to me personally, and in terms of all of the things that come along with a job that you want to see in terms of compensation and all that great stuff, but it's a weird time for me to join too, because there's such demand in the line of work that I'm doing in terms of food sustenance and making sure people are well fed. And yet having to do almost all of that from home after only being at the office for basically 3 days.
I'm sure a lot of people who are just getting employed are finding out that they're going to have to start their jobs alone.
Right, and that's part of the challenge. But you know what's really interesting is that it also is a reflection of the things that I did before I was employed. And what I mean by that is, even when I wasn't at Gleaners and I was looking for the right fit for me, it wasn't so much a matter of finding places that I had some interest in or that maybe even had some interest in me. It was finding the right fit, you know, the right way of both of us being comfortable with one another and the skills that each brought to the table. And in doing that, and in that process, I was still on my own. I was in my own home and doing my own thing. And one of the things that I found that really helped that, and then subsequently helped me for where I am now, working out of home, like all of us, I think, just about, or most of us, is networking with people that I knew and meeting people that I didn't know and reaching out. I know there was a real tendency for me to not only want to keep this search going, but to avoid frustration and stop that search because I felt like, oh, it's just not worth the trouble. It's too hard to do this. I don't want to keep going back to the same people that I've gone to over and over again, maybe in the past. Even as friends, I didn't want to keep reiterating and rehashing the same story that I had. So I had to find new ways of keeping myself not only occupied, but interesting.
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about was, what were the things that you did that helped you feel a little bit better and feel and stay more motivated? Can you share a few of those?
Sure. There was a stretch there where I was feeling very frustrated about not being able to find that right match, that right partnership, whatever you want to call it, the right fit. And it was really tempting to come into my own shell and succumb to even being depressed about it and from that frustration. And what I tried to do is, to the contrary, I tried to actually actively reach out, push even beyond what I was comfortable doing. So instead of staying at home, and routine notwithstanding, because I know that in some cases people talk about how important it is to have a routine, getting up in the morning, you know, getting out of your sweatpants and into
Yeah.
decent clothes, you know, right? And that kind of thing, right? And all of that really is important, but it's the human contact that's important, and that's, you know, only so much more underscored nowadays. But what I did was I started really going out again to things, going to events, um, contacting people that I knew, and coming out of that shell that I started to create around myself, because I was worried about making the wrong impression, leaving the wrong impression. Um, in a phrase that my friend of mine used often was going back to the well, the same well too many times. Um, it's not really like that. The key is to really stay busy, and by doing that, and busy in terms of networking with people, people that you know, people that you don't know, going and attending meetings that are relevant to whatever discipline you're in, even if you don't say anything, just your presence there is important. It gets me feeling better if I do that.
Why do you
But
think that is?
well, I think because it gives me a sense of purpose, and it makes me feel as though I am legitimate. And I think the problem that many job seekers face is when they're in the midst of that search, and especially when they're home alone and nothing else is going around them, they start feeling less than, and like they're not legitimate. They start feeling um, like they're fakes. You know, there's a syndrome for that people talk.
Imposter syndrome.
Exactly,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. And it's really easy to start feeling that way if you're not around the profession that you seek or that you are used to working in. You start losing that sense of understanding about it, or understanding that I understand what I'm doing.
So what kind of events were you going to?
I started going to groups that were gathered. I'm in fundraising, so it was groups like the Association of Fundraising Professionals would have a couple of groups that and events that were going on. And at the time, you know, there was more physical contact, but that's still going on though online.
Yes, it
And
is. Our local
everyone
chapter
should
here.
everyone should take advantage of that. And so things like that, actually going out and meeting with people, reaching out with people that I knew even tangentially through things that I'd been involved with, maybe a different organization that not necessarily I'd worked with, but even as a volunteer with, or I'd been part of a board with, or something along those lines. And I found that those people were much more readily available and willing to meet with me, not just over the phone, but actually in person, have a cup of coffee or tea, whatever your pleasure is, and just talk about, well, what it is you're looking for, and what it is, how you feel about it, and what have you done to try and do that, and how the common refrain, and really almost every time, was, well, how can I help? And it makes me understand that there's always someone out there who they really are willing to help, but you don't know unless you ask.
This is very true. And I really feel from people that a lot of them are not, they're very shy about reaching out to other people because maybe they think they're bothering them, or, like you said, I'm not important enough, who's going to want to talk to me, right? What can you offer a suggestion, a conversation starter, or some way to approach someone who maybe you haven't talked to for a while?
Well, you know what? I can equate it to a little bit to a saying that goes way back for us fundraising people, which is you get more advice when you ask for money, and you get more money when you ask for advice. And what I mean by that in this case is you're not going to them necessarily to ask for the job. And I think it's important to be very clear up front about what you hope to achieve by contacting someone when you do. To say, look, I realize that there may not be any openings where you are now. And in point of fact, what I'm trying to do now is make sure of or figure out even what the best kind of fit would be for me career-wise. And I really admire what it is you're doing there. And maybe we've crossed paths before, we've shaken hands before or whatever. I saw you speaking at a certain event, either online or in person, and I really appreciated the way that you referred to and try to refer to something specific, as opposed to just saying, oh, I thought you were great, which is fine, but it always helps to show that you really were listening somehow to what they were saying. And that will appeal to them. And that will make them understand that, you're trying to be authentic and genuine about your approach to them. It will be more likely that they will want to speak with you. And you will be surprised, I think, by how many people really want to share whatever knowledge they have, if you ask in that way. Ask, don't demand, and ask in a way that that it's clear you're basically not asking them for the money, you're asking them for advice. And then
Right.
a lot of it will come to you.
Everybody likes to be asked, many people like to be asked for advice, right? It's, oh, me? You want my advice?
And the funny thing is, it doesn't even matter. They could be the CEO of a corporation. And believe me, I've talked to those people in that way before. Everybody likes to talk about what they enjoy doing and why they enjoy doing it. And that's great feedback for someone like a job seeker who wants to figure out what they enjoy best and where they would enjoy doing it best.
And I also want to add that it's very important always to thank people for their time, always to follow up with some kind of a message of gratitude for the time that they've given you. Right?
Absolutely. Their time is extremely valuable. And it's important, I think, to make that clear when you're making the ask too, if you can. I realize you're really busy. I know that you have a lot going on. I was hoping maybe you could talk to me for a few minutes on the phone, or even meet for coffee if you had a moment. And again, as you said, Ruth, I never miss an opportunity to thank them afterwards. Email is fine if it's something that you find was more personal and meaningful. Snail mail is always good because, frankly, there's nothing that quite matches the authenticity, like I mentioned earlier, of a handwritten note. It really is personalized in a way that email never will be. It goes a long way.
And the post office is still open, by the way, right
Yes,
now.
The post office
So
is
you can definitely
open.
mail something. I always say mail is a very eye-catching, thing for people. It gets their attention,
It is. It's funny how many years ago it used to be the other way around.
I know.
Email. That's the best way to contact me. And now people want to be called directly, or if they get something in the mail like that. You're right, Ruth. It really stands out.
Well, those are all good tips, Cory. I really appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure, and I have to say that I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the way that you do it with people. And I'll leave your viewers with one more little tip that I've heard of before, but that Ruth reminded me of, and it was extremely useful, which is the STAR method of approaching talking to people. Situation, task, action, result. Bring that to your conversation, and actually try to bring it not only to the interview, but the conversation that you're having with other people leading up to that kind of an interview, the people that you want to network with. It helps you be succinct, and it helps you link your experience with what they're doing in a way that will resonate with them.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that, Ruth.
You're welcome. I wish I could claim credit for that, but someone came up with that years ago, and it's just kind of become the gold standard.
It really is.
But it works.
It works. And
Yeah.
like a lot of things that have become the gold standard, somehow we somehow forget about them, which is odd, but it's really worthwhile. Highly recommended. So good job, Ruth.
Thank you. Well, I wish you much success in your job. I know that you probably are already achieving it. They need you. I mean, this is such a huge area right now of need everywhere. So stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you. And have a great day.
You too.
And
thank you, Ruth.
The same to all of you. Stay safe. This isn't going to last forever. And if you have any further questions, please contact me. My information is with this post. All right, guys. Have a good week.